back of the rim. Got it! Oh, the slam! Oh, using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Apologize for the late video on this, and it's not that late, but actually we were discussing this trade a little bit earlier on playback.tv/dom2k. It's literally where we just watch basketball and talk, so a couple of y'all might have heard what I have to say already, and that was part of the point. I wanted to workshop it a little bit because man, this has just been a very weird saga. For how this weird saga kind of started, you can refer to the video I made a couple of months ago about how the Nets never knew peace from the day that they signed Kyrie Irving and KD, and I would say the most peace that they knew might have been this stretch of a month or so before KD got hurt, where they were playing the best basketball of that entire pairing. For a second, they had me thinking I had made that video too early. I'm like, oh damn, they're gonna go on and win a championship after I said that they were basically menaces to that team. And as happens with this pairing on the Brooklyn Nets, KD got hurt, Kyrie lasted a couple of weeks and wanted out. But why did he want out? Well, as we've heard it, basically his contract had stipulations, his contract extension. This is something that I've been talking to y'all about for well over a year, back to the Kyrie COVID saga. I basically had asked what the Nets' plan was because I knew he wasn't going to play for a while, and then he had a contract decision coming up. It was the first time that I began to notice, hey, this whole thing, it might not last that much longer. After a lot of weird drama, he did re-sign it, but of course that was after the whole Twitter incident. And so they've kind of just been chugging along, and people had been ignoring, hey, he is still a free agent after this season. And so we got a report that, well, Kyrie wants to resign. It's up to Brooklyn if they want to resign him. And then out of nowhere, a few days ago, it just breaks out. Kyrie Irving has requested a trade. He doesn't want to play for this team anymore. If he is not traded by the deadline, he will walk. And so after a very, very brief moment of success with this pairing, the Nets were left with an ultimatum. They failed to move him or Kevin Durant when this initially went down. It was just hard to find teams that needed to make moves for them. As a matter of fact, since this is a Kyrie Irving video, as this trade was requested, I had a couple of ideas. I posted some photoshops, one of which came true because this wasn't really hard. There were two teams that were desperate enough to really make a move this quick, in my opinion. I think those teams were the Lakers and the Mavericks. The Lakers are desperate because, well, I'm not even going to say that they're trying to avoid wasting LeBron's last days. They really are wasting them. But if they were going to do better, a quick move for Kyrie Irving would have probably, in this Western Conference, put them back in championship contention. And the Mavs were desperate because if you've listened to anything I've said in barbershop talks or podcasts, just wherever, if you listen to me in general, you know that I was starting to look at Luka Doncic on the Mavs the same way I was looking at Donovan Mitchell on the Jazz. I started looking at my watch. How much longer are they gonna have him out here with his subpar talent, hoping that he just wills them to a championship? The thing I didn't know was who was that guy, who was gonna become available, who would be free, who would make sense to put next to Luka. You can't necessarily wait for that perfect storm, you can't wait for that perfect player, and that's exactly what they did. Kyrie is not the perfect player. However, with the situation that Luka had, I'm going to say they probably had another year or two before you really started to feel that pressure. Well, the pressure is on now, but I think in a year or two we would have really been looking at him being moved. Still might be there. The difference is now you've actually made a gamble. You've put some skin in the game if you're Dallas. I think they had to do that. The Kristaps Porzingis thing didn't work out. You lost Jalen Brunson, and I'm still unclear on if they're going to keep Christian Wood. So you can basically say in around a year's time they would have lost Luka's three best teammates. That on top of not having a name next to him, that's just a no-no. And so if you're unaware for whatever reason, this is obviously a gigantic gamble because of the fact Kyrie is still not extended. Having Kyrie Irving on your team is just a gamble in general, ask Brooklyn. Don't know how they'll play together. And with the contract information, if the slightest thing goes wrong in the next 2 or 3 months, he might leave. You know what? Nothing even has to go wrong. I still feel like that LeBron and Kyrie pairing, it just feels like it's on the horizon. It feels like it's been on the horizon for a long time now. LeBron obviously wants him there. He tweeted before the trade request. Sorry, he tweeted before the official trade and he tweeted after it. So he doesn't make his interest secret. And if Irving doesn't like exactly how this works, or if the Mavs go out in the first round or whatever happened, you don't even know with Kyrie Irving. Literally just something that he doesn't like has to happen, and he is free to go to LA and play with LeBron and Anthony Davis this summer. Knowing that the Mavs gave up 3 picks, and they are future picks. This unprotected first is in 2029. Whoever that was, there's a likelihood they were born in like the year 2010. And of course, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith. Dinwiddie can be the ultimate spark plug. Dorian Finney-Smith, that's one of your only defenders. But you know what? Mavs were not winning a championship this year. they weren't. Those type of pieces around Luka by themselves are never going to win them a championship. I don't care how close they got last year. It's not going to win them a title. And so the thing that I like about this gamble, although it presents a lot of questions defensively and offensively, if Kyrie stays... Actually, you know what? Sorry, let me back up first. You saw the video I just made about how competitive the NBA is and how open it is, specifically in the Western Conference. Nobody has grabbed the West by the throat yet, in my opinion. I don't think there's a team out there that is just unbeatable. With that being said, I still do not know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. There's a really good team in Denver, and then there's a lot of something going on in Memphis. But when I made that video, the Pelicans, I believe they were 3rd or 4th, and because of their horrible circumstances, today they're, what, 10th, 11th? Point is, the West is weird. And so if Kyrie and Luka click this year, which again, I think this team is missing a lot, so I don't think they will win a championship. I don't think they'll come out of the West. But the fact is, anybody can go for it. And so why not try to figure that out? And if Irving stays, now you've got a chance this summer to actually put some championship pieces around what could be a championship duo. I think from the terrible situation that the Mavericks were in, having a lot of money tied up in subpar players, and knowing that eventually that Luka clock will start ticking if it hadn't already, this is about the best circumstance that you could ask for. Beggars cannot be choosers. Kyrie became available at a moment's notice. I believe the Mavs were desperate, and so now you go figure it out. And what does that look like? What does it look like with these two on the court? I'll say 2 things. First of all, on the front of them being desperate, this trade really reminds me of the Pelicans and when they went and got DeMarcus Cousins for Anthony Davis. It's not a one-to-one comparison. Yes, you will find differences when you look. I'm just talking about the fact that you had a star who seemed like he might only be a few years away from leaving, and he never really had a superstar name next to him. And so despite what the rest of the roster might be flawed at, you go and get that guy and you figure the rest out later. Of course, the Pels didn't get to do that. DeMarcus Cousins got hurt almost immediately, but this feels similar to that. And I'm also gonna say, I am not gonna make a definitive statement just downing it, because years and years ago when the Rockets got James Harden and Chris Paul together, everyone was just wondering, oh, how are they gonna play together? You may not remember it now because they did so well that first year, but when the trade actually happened, they said, how is James Harden gonna play with this guy? It worked to the tune of the best offense in NBA history, I believe, at the time. Obviously, Kyrie is not the floor general that Chris Paul was. However, I'm just saying there are cool things offensively that they can do to make this pairing work on offense, just on paper. The fact that when Luka sits now, you will have to deal with Kyrie or vice versa. I'm assuming with staggered minutes, you will almost never get a situation where both of them are off the floor. So you got 2 of the best ISO guys. That's going to be fun. Surrounded by shooters. That's going to be a lot of fun. And now when you've got Luka with his back to the basket, using his weight to collapse the defense, you've got Kyrie Irving floating out there with other shooters. And he's not just a catch and shoot guy. That's a guy who can legitimately attack closeouts and create. I see ways this offense can get really fun. Obviously, defensively, their defense should probably just be described as, hey, we outscored them. Again, that's a next year question. Right now, you just do the best you can. And if you're Dallas, you do everything you can to convince Kyrie Irving that this is where he wants to be, because you lose Kyrie, well, at least you tried to keep Luka. That's really all I'll say about them. There was another component to this trade that we do have to discuss, and it's not the Lakers, it's the Nets. They were able to get Dinwiddie back, Dorian Finney-Smith, of course, and the picks. Oh, by the way, we haven't been mentioning all day the Mavericks got Markieff Morris, just throwing that in there. But yeah, for the Nets, look, this is one thing I don't understand about KD or LeBron and what they did in signing their extensions when they signed them. I don't understand, and I made a whole video for this for LeBron, I don't understand why either of them decided to sign contracts when their team situations were so questionable. LeBron decided to sign his future away in LA off of trust when he had always taken these really player-friendly deals, being that he could basically, he could decide to dip whenever he wanted to. And then at the point where the roster was most questionable, he signs, and now he's tweeting shit that feels like he's listening to Marvin's Room. KD, it made a little bit more sense. He had Kyrie and Harden next to him, except once again, their contracts were never in a solid situation. So signing it when he did, I guess it was a show of good faith to those guys, but also it just felt like we've done this already and past the player empowerment era and everything they learned. I thought these were guys who keep their options open. Now Kevin Durant is sitting here as the only superstar on his team, and it's a well-rounded team. You've got defenders here, you've got shooters here, but it is not a championship team. I don't care how good of a spark plugged in Dinwiddie has shown to be. We know teams do not win championships like this with no clear number 2. They just don't. Furthermore, KD, it hasn't been that long since he requested a trade, and that was when Kyrie was there. I can't imagine he's happy with this right now. This is a team that will probably still, when KD gets back, win regular season games, and they'll even be interesting in the playoffs. I can see them having some fun playoff matchups, and then running against a contending team that really harasses Kevin Durant and makes somebody else make shots. And you know what that sounds like to me? Again, not a one-to-one comparison. That sounds exactly like the 2018 Cavs. That sounds like LeBron and shooters, and once LeBron has fed you as much as he possibly can, if other guys aren't just all the way on, then you are not a championship team. We'll see what the Nets do. They have been tethered into names like OG Anunoby. They're probably looking at some other moves, but whatever they do, I don't know that it's going to be enough to keep Durant there past this year. Again, he just did this last summer. They had a contending situation for a second. Who knows what's on the horizon? Maybe they'll be able to finesse something this summer and put another guy with him, and he'll be able to retire there contending. But because again, this roster is still just now another star player next to Durant away from contending. However, as you see with the Mavericks, that's not always easy to come by. And so when Kevin Durant inevitably asked to get out of here if the Nets don't pull something together in the next couple of days, well, then I guess we're just back to the same news cycle as we were in the summer, huh? Either way, that is everything I'm thinking about with this trade. Rest in peace, Kyrie and KD era in Brooklyn. It was a bumpy ride. It never had any type of success. It was a massive headache. If I were Brooklyn, I would honestly start to think about how to just go ahead and maybe secure the future, being that still a lot of their picks are with Houston. So maybe think about what you're going to do when KD wants out and how you can get the most for him, being that when he's not hurt, he still proved that he is an MVP level player. But yeah, they probably need to start thinking about that. It's a damn shame. Hope this works out with Luka and Kyrie. It does have the potential to be very fun. Kyrie next to any other superstar player it always turns out that way when he's playing, and so they have a lot to figure out in this short 2 months before the playoffs. But if they can be decent this year and he trusts it past this, it could be really scary for the Mavericks in a good way for the next few years. But yeah, you know, nothing is guaranteed in a situation that involves Kyrie Irving. So yeah, you hit the like button please, and sub, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications when a video drops. And I'm gonna go calculate how many years I need to wait before updating that Kyrie Irving career situation or career story video. I would have updated it by now, but he just keeps adding to it. I might just wait a few years.